Hello, and welcome to another episode on AI from Zond. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the systematic approach for selecting investments in artificial intelligence. AI has been a hot topic recently, and there's a lot of good and accurate, but at the same time also inaccurate information flowing around AI. Companies are looking for ways to invest in AI. Individuals are equally excited about the possibilities with AI, especially with generative AI. So everyone is trying to find a way on applying AI in their either individual and personal interest or in the interest of gaining a competitive advantage or reducing the cost or increasing the top line within an organization. So whether you're an individual contributor or a leader on the IT or marketing side within your organization, you'll find this session useful in terms of finding the right direction with AI, finding the area where AI will deliver the most value to you as an individual or value towards your organization to help you move the needle. See, there are some investments in AI that have a ceiling in the value that they can provide, and there are some that don't. There are some that continue reducing in value. There are some that keep growing in value as time goes by. And there are simply use cases that don't apply for AI solutions. There are simply use cases that can be solved better with other tools that we have been using for a long time. So let's dive in. And we'll start with a quick round of introductions. So my name is Vasily Fomichev, and I am a co-founder of Zond Digital, a full services digital agency. We are AI first, so AI is near and dear to us as a company, and it's been near and dear to me for several years now. I'm a 10-time Sitecore MVP. I'm specialized across a variety of content platforms. Content experience space has been near and dear to me. I'm specialized across Sitecore, Acquia, Optimizely, Content AI, and Contentful platforms and AI applications with those platforms. And I've been spending quite a bit of time recently with specialized AI machine learning models, as well as generative AI, specifically with Azure and OpenAI models. As I mentioned, Zond Digital is an AI first agency. And what that means for us is while other vendors may be using AI to accelerate their processes, help them improve their current manual steps, and hopefully gain a competitive advantage either with cost or quality, we flip the entire pyramid around, upside down in fact. So we start with artificial intelligence and automation first. And we train our models, we've trained our agents and assistants to do those things for us. And we come in as specialists at the end to polish and tweak. So what that allows us to do is to deliver the same or better level of quality of work at a fraction of the cost. The things that would normally take weeks and days and sometimes months, for instance, take us hours and days. So this is a significant leap forward. And we've been working on this for quite a bit of time. In fact, some of the strategies that you'll see in this presentations, we've learned on our own experience. So let's dive in. The first question that we want to ask ourselves when we're looking to apply AI as a solution to a problem is whether this problem needs a deterministic solution or not. We have to remember that artificial intelligence provides answers that are not deterministic. So for instance, if we give generative AI a problem to solve, it's going to do its best to come up with the right answer. However, it's going to have a percentage associated with it of accuracy, right? All actions performed by artificial intelligence have an accuracy metric. In fact, there are different metrics that the AI is measured on around accuracy. At the end of the day, no matter what machine learning model or AI engine that you're using, it's not going to be a deterministic solution. So if you're looking for picture frame size and generative AI gives you an answer of 101 inch in width, but you have a 102 inch picture, it's still not going to fit. The answer that could be 99.99% right is still a wrong answer. So that's the first question that we need to ask. Is the solution that we need, does it need to be deterministic, right? So, and if the answer is yes, we should be turning to statistical models. On the other side, if the answer is no, that's where AI may be the right solution. So let's move on. So the next step that we want to look at is make sure that we've done our due diligence before even thinking about AI, even if it doesn't need a deterministic solution. See, especially in the area of marketing or sales, there are a significant number of insights and decisions can be made by simply organizing the data and reporting on it. There have been a lot of investments in data in the past couple of years, and companies have been gathering data in data stores, in various data lakes, right, and CDPs and other data stores and various types of abbreviations. So there's a lot of data stored out there now, and a lot of companies are wondering if they can simply use artificial intelligence to make sense of it. However, artificial intelligence is the step that we need to graduate in terms of ROI. The highest ROI that we can get is through either manually or automatically organizing our data. Now, once we've organized the data, the next step may seem like the right time to apply artificial intelligence to structured data. Now that we've cleaned that up, finally, we're at a stage where we can now bring artificial intelligence and help us identify some areas that we may have overlooked. However, again, the next step that we should be taking, ideally, is applying statistics. There is a massive amount of information and insights that we can get from data by simply using common statistical models. Now, once we've exhausted statistics, only then we should be looking to artificial intelligence to help us with insights and decision making and generation, right? And it may seem like the ROI should go up at a relatively steady level as we move through these stages, and we may even expect the final stage with artificial intelligence to give us quite a bit of bump compared to the first two. However, the reality is quite different. And this is what the reality actually looks like. We get a bump from organizing our data initially, and the most return that we're going to get on our data is going to be by applying statistics. Now, this is a surprise to a lot of companies who are looking to use AI. They expect that bump to be in that last pillar in artificial intelligence, where artificial intelligence only gets us from that 75 to maybe 90% accuracy improvement and insights, right? So make sure that you exhaust all the statistical methods of getting to the right answer, to driving the insights before applying artificial intelligence. Now, once we've graduated from the statistics and now looking at artificial intelligence, we may have some areas where we want to apply artificial intelligence as a solution. So the next step we should be looking at is whether the problem that we're trying to solve has an increasing value the more we use it, or vice versa. Although, when we think about AI application in business use cases, we may think about it as a continuously increasing value add in many ways. However, there are certain use cases where the more we use artificial intelligence, the higher the risk of a negative impact, and the higher and the lower the value of that application is. So if we look at use cases like marketing and sales and inventory management that you see on the left side, with these use cases, as we continue using artificial intelligence and we make decisions, let's say in the use case with personalization, we train our model to make decisions based on certain data points. And as the model makes decisions, the feedback loop is relatively short, especially with personalization and digital channels, where we can gather the analytics based on model's decision, feed that analytics back into the engine, and keep the model improving and becoming more and more accurate. So the more we use the model, the more accurate it's going to become. And unfortunately, this is the perception that the majority of people have about artificial intelligence, that it just simply gets better with time, always. However, there are some use cases where that's not the case. One use case would be application of AI in customer service. Let's say a chatbot with customer service. So in this case, when the chatbot does its job well, in other words, answers the customer question, right? So the chatbot did its job. So it hit the ceiling of value. There's no more value that a chatbot can provide. It can answer a question accurately, but that's just an expectation from a chatbot at that point, right? However, the negative impact, the downside of the chatbot could be significant Chatbots can connect still at an emotional level. They can detect certain cues, although they're smart and they can pick up on a lot of things in the Gen AI space. They still can't create a relationship with a customer, and that could be a significant negative impact. And the more we use chatbots with customer service, the higher risk that we run, and the lower of the negative impact, and the lower the value is. The similar scenarios with scheduling. If the RAI agent nails scheduling, if it gets it done right every time, it simply does its job. There's no wow factor. There's no increased value from that. We've hit the ceiling, right? So the only way is down. And if the AI agent schedules a meeting and makes a mistake or overbooks a meeting, which again, AIs are non-deterministic, right? So they do have a margin of error. They do have an accuracy metric. So there's a chance that that could happen. But when that happens, that could have a significant negative circumstance, right? So outcome. So make sure that you take this into account when selecting investments or areas where problems that we want to solve with artificial intelligence. Make sure to pick a problem where AI applications will continue delivering an increasing amount of value the more we use it. Okay, so ideally what we want to create with artificial intelligence is a flywheel that we call data learning effect. This is a flywheel where a piece of information comes in and it goes into a model. It helps the model make a decision, helps the model become more accurate in making decisions. So the more data we feed into the model, the more accurate it becomes. And the more accurate the model becomes, the more we can automate the process. The more we can automate the process, the more cost savings we can realize, the more profit we can realize, right? Move up, move down the bottom line, move up the top line, or move a KPI, right? A specific KPI more and more. And with the cost savings or the profit increase and the new data points, we can feed more data back into the model and off we go. So the model continues to spin and grow. And this is why we want to make sure that whatever the area that we pick, where we want to use artificial intelligence, we should pick an area where we can continuously feed the data back into the model and shortcut that loop as much as possible. Shortcut, reduce the time from the output of the model back into the model, feed the information back into the model to help it improve. And the more we can shortcut that feedback loop, the data learning effect, the faster the wheel is going to spin and the faster the model is going to improve, and the sooner we're going to get to that automation phase. So here's some tips for creating data learning effects. Whether you're an individual contributor, again, you're doing this for yourself, trying to automate your tasks, or we're trying to build the data learning effect flywheels within the organization. So select a space where more data makes bringing more data cheaper, right? So the more data that we have, it allows the cheaper that it makes bringing more data. For instance, a good example would be user-generated content, social networks, where we have what's called the network effect. The more users use the platform, the more users come to the platform, right? So that's the same effect that we want to achieve with data. The more data that we use, for instance, with user-generated content, the better accuracy we can get with a model, the better results that we can generate with the model, the more we can automate, and the more data we can gather as a result, right? More accurate decisions attract more usage, more customers, more users, right? We also want to pick a space where we can bring data from the outside as well. For instance, synthetic data. Not all use cases fit for an easy and cost-effective synthetic data generation. So make sure that the data that that we're trying to use the model on can be relatively easily replicated with artificial methods, right? Because generating synthetic data is an exceptionally cost-effective way to bring more data into the platform. And the new Gen AI models out there are exceptionally good at doing those things. And finally, make sure that the data that we can bring into the model is up to date as possible to avoid the model drift. All right? To be able to make the accurate decisions, we want to make sure that our data is continuously up to date. And the model drift is when the model starts drifting away from being accurate. So the accuracy of the decision making starts degrading because of the stale data that we're bringing to the model. So that actually creates a negative impact on our outcome. So we want to make sure that we bring up-to-date data in the context that we're using it, right? So the length of time can be different depending on the use. Now, when we're looking for a problem to solve, a lot of organizations, especially with generative AI, try to think big. And that's natural because generative AI comes with so many potential applications. So we start thinking about different ways in how we can solve multiple things by applying generative AI simply, right? However, there's a lot of resistance in some organizations to generative AI. And especially at executive ranks, there's some pushback because generative AI generates content and we don't really have full control, again, because it's a non-deterministic solution. We don't have full control over what it generates. We have an accuracy metric. We have temperature, for instance, that we can turn down to help reduce hallucinations, right, and help it be less creative and be more factual, for instance, right. However, we still don't have full control. Full control is called coding, right, writing code. That's not how AI works. So that brings a bit of fear to executives, thinking what AI will do or possible of doing, right? They're thinking of that negative impact, potential bottom line, right? That could happen by applying AI. So one of the things that we want to focus on is first building trust. If you're thinking in the context of an organization, building trust towards artificial intelligence internally. So pick a small problem to solve and solve it exceptionally well instead of picking a general use case. Pick a very specific small problem that's going to move a needle on a certain KPI and solve it exceptionally. So solve it with excellence, and that will build trust and reliance on AI. And then take the next step and take the next step. In fact, when we're thinking about the specific types of problems to solve or specific tasks, pick a task that can augment an existing task, an existing manual task. Don't solve the entire task right away. First, allow the people who perform that manual task just barely tap into artificial intelligence and see and realize the benefit that it could deliver at larger scale. So by solving a small problem, helping them make a small decision as part of their day-to-day task, for instance, manual task, we'll start building trust within that corner of the organization. And then the next step would be to replace that manual task completely. Just one task, right? And with generative AI, a good example would be agents, right? Especially with RAG or ALM. On top of that, these agents are now capable of solving specific tasks. And then ultimately what we want to get to is once we've solved multiple tasks, now we can chain these tasks into workflows and automate entire processes with what's called agentic AI, right? That's the ultimate goal here in this case. So think of use cases and picking problems to solve with artificial intelligence. Pick up use cases that, while they can be individually solved in small quantities initially, they can eventually be brought together and connected, automate the entire workflow. And we'll talk about how we can do that. So as you start creating the DLE, data learning effect flywheels, what you'll find yourself is having multiple of these flywheels and potentially across various capabilities. Development, if you're on the IT side, data, personalization, strategy, content, testing, right, DevOps, infrastructure, you'll end up with multiple flywheels across different capabilities and multiple flywheels within each capability. So the next step would be to start connecting these flywheels. While each flywheel will improve itself, the more it runs with time exponentially, right? The effect becomes compounded even more if we start connecting these wheels together. So in this example, for instance, if we can grab the data from one flywheel and plug that into the next one, and they can deliver more accurate results in that flywheel, and then now exponentially produce exponentially more accurate outcomes as the result, and then delivers better data that can then be pushed to another system, to another flywheel, and so on and so forth. Now we're compounding the data learning effect, and we're creating what's called a data learning effect network. And now this growth becomes increasingly exponential, compoundingly exponential. So we're talking starting from small 10x to hundreds and 1000x improvements as we get going with the flywheels. And this is why it's so important to pick an investment that can then grow into a data learning effect network. The initial investment, that small use case that we're going to solve, should have the potential of becoming a system of data learning flywheels, right? That they will that can be connected together. So, and ultimately, where we want to get to with artificial intelligence, and this is why it's so important to have the vision for the use case automation. This is why it's so important to pick a small use case but yet have a bigger vision for for the automation of the entire process in the future, because ultimately we want to automate the entire workflow altogether. And we can do that through agentic AI. We can combine the data learning effect flywheels together. We can create agents that make decisions, perform certain tasks, combine it with LM, combine it with resource augmented generation, RAG, right? And then create these workflows that can now automate entire processes. So starting from small task, we've grown and we've graduated into automating entire tasks. So we started with augmenting, right? Then we've graduated into automating entire tasks. And then we eventually graduated into automating entire processes and workflows. So this is the power of choosing the right investments with AI. If we pick a wrong investment that can't be connected or can't deliver value in a different application, then we would have hit the ceiling, right? If we didn't have the vision for a larger automation process, we would have hit the ceiling. And there are lots of ceilings out there, artificial and not. There are ceilings that we can hit simply by the nature of the use case. It's engraved, right? The process, for instance, like with diminishing returns that we saw with customer service and scheduling, or there could be regulatory ceilings that we could hit, or internal compliance ceilings within an organization. So make sure to pay attention to those things and pick a use case that could be graduated into a process that also does not have a ceiling and can continually grow and improve and eventually be automated. So with that, we'll end our presentation, we'll end our session. If you have any questions about what you just saw, feel free to email me directly at vasily@zondigital.com or find me on social. Here's my phone number for a direct call, 323-393-3004, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. I hope you